So written constitution, the things have been systematically arranged in one document. When we say unwritten constitution, we were writing an unwritten constitution does not mean that the provisions have not been written down, but are not codified, or systematically arranged in a single document. Not codified or systematically arranged in a single document. So you see that when we talk about the example, Indian Constitution, US Constitution, French Constitution. So if we talk about these constitutions, you will find that all the aspects have been systematically written down. The provisions related to the creation of the states, citizenship, rights of the people, then organs of the government. So the provisions have been written down in one document. But if we talk about an unwritten constitution, they have not been codified or they have not been systematically arranged in a single document. For example, the UK Constitution or the Constitution of New Zealand also. So here it does not mean that the things have not been written down. They have been written down, but at one place you will not find everything. For example, in United Kingdom, the things have been written down, like the provisions related to Parliament, but in one separate statute. Statute means the laws which have been passed by the legislature. Then Judicial Act, a separate book. Writ of Habeas Corpus, a separate book. So in separate booklets, in separate laws, they have got the things written down, not at one place. But here, if we talk about these constitutions, the provisions have been written down at one place. Then secondly, a written constitution is an enacted constitution, whereas an unwritten constitution is an evolved constitution. Enacted constitution, a group of people sat down, they wrote the constitution and they said, okay, this is the Constitution of America, this is the Constitution of India. For example, the Philadelphia Convention, it enacted the American Constitution. The Constituent Assembly, it enacted the Indian Constitution. Now here, an evolved constitution means at one time the things were not written down by a body, but basically it evolved. For example, the UK Constitution started evolving since 1215 AD. That is since the time of Magna Carta. Means some of the laws which were there in 1215 AD, they are still there in the English system. The new laws are made, the earlier laws, they cease to exist. So at one time all the laws are not made. And then the most important difference is that wherever we have a written constitution, there is supremacy of the constitution and wherever we have unwritten constitution, there is parliamentary supremacy. Why we say that there is supremacy of the constitution? because all the three organs of the government owe their origin and derive their authority from the Constitution. Such questions are asked in the reasoning assertion portion, that in a written constitution there is supremacy of the constitution and the logic. All the three organs of the government owe their origin and they derive their authority from the constitution. So basically here, no doubt, in the law making the parliament may be supreme, law making process, but it is not sovereign. The parliament basically is, the power of the parliament is limited by the provisions of the constitution. The parliament or the legislature will have to make the laws for which it has been authorized by the constitution. And not only this, the process also has been mentioned in the constitution. That is, okay, you need to make laws by following this process only. So you'll have to follow the laws which are there, the provisions which are there, and also the procedure which has been mentioned in the constitution itself. Not only this, if we talk about unwritten constitution, as it exists in United Kingdom, there is parliamentary supremacy. What is this concept of parliamentary supremacy in United Kingdom? In United Kingdom, if you see, parliamentary supremacy refers to the supreme lawmaking power of the UK Parliament. The British Parliament can make laws on any subject because it has not been created by a third party. In our country, Parliament shall consist of, where it is mentioned? It is mentioned in the Constitution, which was enacted by the Constituent Assembly. The members of the Parliament had not enacted that, oh, these will be our powers. The privileges were decided by the Constituent Assembly. But here in United Kingdom, everything was decided by the Parliament itself, that the Parliament will consist of these houses, will make the laws like this, this will be our privileges, we will decide about ourselves. The Parliament decided about judiciary, that how the judges will be appointed, what will be their term, and in our country it has been mentioned in the Constitution. And even though the Parliament has the power to change it, the process has been mentioned in the Constitution itself. You have to follow that. But in United Kingdom, the British Parliament can make laws on any subject. It can change an earlier law by a very easy process. And the laws of the British Parliament cannot be challenged before any authority, and they cannot be declared as null and void. And the scholars commenting on the supremacy of the British Parliament in the law-making process, they have commented that the British Parliament is so powerful that it can make laws on any subject except on changing a man into a woman and a woman into a man. Means, except on a subject which is naturally not possible. You cannot make laws. But whatever is naturally possible, on those subjects, the British Parliament can make laws. So such type of understanding based statements may be there in the examination, that which one of the following is correct regarding a written constitution. There is supremacy of the constitution. Whenever we talk about independence of jury, that is a different thing. Every country has adopted its own way of going through the independence of judiciary. Every country has got its own system. So there are not only the written laws, but the customs and conventions which are also there, which play an important role. And all these things depend on the political culture also. And the government of the day, it is uncomfortable if it disobeys any we can say an ongoing convention. So apart from the parliamentary laws, we can say the common laws are there. Then we have got the conventions which are there, the commentaries by the scholars which are there. All they shape the working of an unwritten constitution. It is not only one thing. It is only one aspect. That is only with respect to the law making aspect, the parliament has got the supremacy, but the other things are also there which are taken into consideration. Which aspect? Acha, parliamentary supremacy is there. So obviously whatever is there, dekho, even if an established convention is there, the judiciary has to be independent. So we have got certain customs and conventions which are prevailing in the United Kingdom also. So no doubt they have not been written down. And here we are talking with respect to the law making process. Here we are not talking about, we can say, the independence of the judiciary. So even if the convention and customs are there, they play important role in deciding all these aspects. It all depends on the political culture also. Bolo?
The constitution itself, if it is not, I mean, it is not written, or कोई भी जो features हैं वो match हो ही नहीं रहे, so why are we not calling them laws of UK or acts of UK, rather we are calling it the constitution of UK?
When we talk about the constitution, it is not always necessary that everything has to be written down. It is not necessary also. And if we talk about the Indian constitution also, everything has not been written down in the constitution. There are many conventions which are followed. For example, the 3 sessions of the parliament. Nowhere in our constitution it has been mentioned that there has to be 3 sessions of the parliament. It is a convention that we have got 3 sessions. The only thing that has been mentioned in the constitution is that the intervening gap between the 2 sessions of the parliament not to exceed 6 months. That's the only thing. It is a convention that is followed. Nowhere in our constitution it has been mentioned that there will be 3 types of ministers. Nowhere it has been mentioned. The constitution uses the word council of ministers, and only once under article 352 the word cabinet has been mentioned. So basically, but in the basic difference is that wherever we talk about evolution, it is a process, but here we are talking about the foolproof thing from the very beginning. So conventions are a part of every parliamentary system also, because for the discussion that you will have to go into parliamentary system, presidential system, a different type of systems are there, that also we will be discussing. So it does not mean that we will not term it as a constitution. It does not mean that everything will be written down. Some unwritten things are also there which are followed in a country. For example, the customary laws are also there. They are also followed. Common laws are there. Now, so from the examination point of view, this is the important aspect, supremacy of the constitution. Now, coming to the next feature, drawn from various sources. I think this aspect you people may be knowing, that is, the Indian constitution has been drawn from various sources, and from the examination point of view you need to know some important sources, and I think I will just check with you that how far you know, you may be knowing. The major source is the Government of India Act 1935. Can you tell me what are the important aspects that we have taken from the Government of India Act 1935? Okay. Then chalo, some of the important aspects I'll tell you, you can write it. First, administrative structure of both the center and the states. Center and the states. Then next, office of the governor. Office of the governor. Next, emergency powers. Emergency powers vested in, the idea of emergency, you can write like this, the idea of emergency. Idea of emergency. Dekho, when we say idea of emergency, I am not saying emergency provisions. Idea of means there can be proclaimed emergency in the country. And in the Government of India Act 1935, the emergency powers were given to both Governor General as well as the Governor, both. So, but we have not followed it, and in our country it is vested only in the central government, not at the state level. This we have taken from the Weimar Constitution of Germany. वो मैं अभी बता दूंगा. Then next, the idea of federalism. Idea of federalism. I'll tell you the most important things only, क्योंकि ये आजकल बहुत कम आता है एग्जाम में. Then the UK Constitution. UK Constitution. Parliamentary system. Parliamentary system. Then single citizenship. Civil services. Single citizenship. Civil services. Rule of law. What is this concept of rule of law? Law is supreme. No one is above the law. All are equal in the eyes of law. That is the rule of law. Then civil services we have written. Bicameral legislature. Office of the CAG. Office of the CAG, Comptroller and Auditor General. Then US Constitution. What we have taken from America? First of all, the idea of preamble. Fundamental rights. Then equal protection of laws. Equal protection of laws. Then independence of judiciary. Then the composition of the upper house. Composition in the sense, in bracket you can write the term of the members. Then next, the vice president as the ex officio chairman of the upper house then any other thing that you remember? Fundamental rights we have discussed. One more thing, in some of the books you will find judicial review also. But the most important thing with respect to judicial review is that judicial review has been taken from America. It has not been taken from the American Constitution. American Constitution is silent on the concept of judicial review. It is an evolution that had taken place in United States of America in 1803 in the Marbury versus Madison case. So it started there, but basically we have not taken it from the Constitution of America as such. Then Weimar Constitution of Germany. हाँ, separation of powers you can write, कोई issue नहीं. हाँ, office of, हाँ, I am telling you the most important जो एग्जाम में पूछ सकते हैं, they can ask you in the examination, ठीक है ना. Weimar Constitution of Germany. Now here it is not Constitution of Germany, it is Weimar Constitution of Germany. Now why the term Weimar Constitution is used? Not the Constitution of Germany as such. देखो, why we do not use this Constitution of Germany? Because we had not taken anything from the Constitution of Germany that was prevailing at that point of time. Because when India got independence at that point of time, basically if you see that Germany was divided into two parts. That was one thing. Then apart from it, before that there was Hitler's constitution. So we had not taken anything from Hitler's constitution as such. And before that, there was a constitution of Germany which was prevailing, which was enacted at a place called Weimar. Weimar is a name of the place. So to distinguish it with the other constitutions, the term, we use the expression Weimar. We have taken something from the Constitution of Germany which was adopted in Weimar. So what we have taken, you can write it. So, the emergency powers vested, V-E-S-T-E-D, vested in the center. Next, suspension of some fundamental rights during national emergency. Then Canadian Constitution, a federation with a strong center, then the residuary powers vested in the residuary powers vested in the center, then Australian Constitution the idea of concurrent list, next cooperative federalism, then Article 301, that is freedom of interstate trade, commerce and intercourse. Freedom of interstate trade, commerce and intercourse. Trade means buying and selling of goods. Commerce also means the same thing, buying and selling of goods. But what is the difference between trade and commerce is that in trade, profit making is more important, and in commerce, transaction is more important. And intercourse is going from one place to another place for cultural interaction, samagam. So it is one of the articles which have been taken from one constitution, and without any change, it has been incorporated or it has been put in the Indian Constitution. So apart from it, there are many other constitutions from which we have taken. One of the most popular I may be missing was Irish Constitution, that you people may be knowing. Directive Principles of State Policy. And then the process of the election of the president. Then we have got the Constitution of South Africa. We have taken the process of amendment, Constitution of South Africa. Process of constitutional amendment. ये C grade topic है. C grade topic means rarely the questions are asked in the examination. Rarely. I'll tell you what are A grade questions, what are B grade topics, ऐसे करके ना उससे you will be able to understand कि क्या होगा, so that you will be able to prepare in a very systematic manner. हम लोग पढ़ाने के लिए चलो ठीक है, we discuss each and everything, but you will have to say that अच्छा A grade topics, B grade topics, C grade topics. The more the time I will give, it means the more important that topic is. हाँ. Has given क्या we have taken? हाँ. Abolition of untouchability. ठीक है, abolition of untouchability, panchayats. Yeah. So these are completely our own indigenous one. हाँ, मैं सब बता दूंगा, आप एकदम घबराना नहीं. जिस दिन हो जाएगा ना कि चैट पॉलिटी हैज कम टू एन एंड, ए ग्रेड टॉपिक्स, बी ग्रेड टॉपिक्स, आपको खुद पता चलेगा अभी. ठीक है ना, आप यू शुड नॉट बी वरीड अबाउट एवरीथिंग. वो तो मैं टच कर देता हूं बहुत सारी चीजें ना कि चलो ठीक है. क्या होता है कि व्हेन यू मे बी रीडिंग ऑफ योर ओन आल्सो समथिंग मे बी मिसिंग, सो दैट इज व्हाई आई टच द थिंग्स. नाउ coming to another important aspect, it is that India has a parliamentary system. The public service commissions are very fond of asking questions on parliamentary system. Now, here, if you talk about this parliamentary system, across the globe, based on the relationship between the executive and the legislature, the political systems have been classified as parliamentary and presidential. So this is a classification. So political system, it is a A grade topic. From here the questions are asked in the examination. So in the next sentence you write, based on the relationship between the executive and the legislature, the political systems have been classified as parliamentary and presidential. So if someone will ask you that, okay, what is the basis of this classification? So it is the relationship between the legislature and the executive in that country. Now here, first of all, coming to parliamentary system. In a parliamentary system, there are two heads. Head of the state and head of the government. Now, we were discussing a parliamentary system. So, in the parliamentary system, we have got two heads, head of the state and head of the government. The head of the state is the nominal head, and head of the government is the real head. And you see, examples I'll give you. In United Kingdom, the head of the state is the crown and head of the government is the prime minister, who is the real head. If we talk about India, the head of the state, president, is the nominal head and head of the government is the prime minister, who is the real head. Now, you may be thinking that the prime minister is the real head. So, why such type of government is not known as prime ministerial government? Why it is termed as parliamentary system? The reason being that the head of the government, that is the prime minister, is provided by the parliament. Means he must be a member of the parliament. So the parliament provides for the real head. Now, another question that can be there in your mind that, sir, if parliament is providing, in all the countries we don't have the nomenclature parliament. We have got different nomenclatures also of the legislature. So why the word parliament was chosen by the political scientists? You see, such a system evolved in the United Kingdom. United Kingdom is termed as the mother of parliamentary democracy. And in United Kingdom, the legislature is known as the parliament. So from there the concept of parliamentary system evolved. That is why the nomenclature is parliamentary system. This is the first important thing with respect to the parliamentary system. Head of the state and head of the government are two different persons. Then another important feature of the parliamentary system is that the members of the executive that is the ministers must be the members of the legislature. And thirdly, the executive is responsible to the legislature especially the lower house. You remember the 3 points and you may get a job also. हमेशा ध्यान रखना, why we are sitting in the class? We are sitting to get a job. We need to be very professional. What we need to encircle? We need to remember these 3 points. And if you see the previous year questions, the UPSC, along with the first aspects that we had discussed, limited government, constitutionalism, another area that the UPSC is very fond of asking is this. And those who may not have understood it, I will make them understand with the help of an illustration. First of all, the electorate. It elects the legislature. And the legislature provides for the executive. Here we are talking about political executive. Electorate means the voters. We are the electorate. We do not elect the members of the executive. We do not elect even the prime minister. We do not elect the chief minister also. What we do? We go and we vote for our representative. Okay, vote for this person. He will be our representative. So, we elect the members to the legislature, and the political party or the coalition. It can be a pre-poll coalition or a post-poll coalition, which gets majority here. Its members, they become the member of the executive. This is the point that we have written, that the members of the executive, that is the ministers, must be the members of the legislature. So, the members of the executive, they must be the members of the legislature. No doubt in our country, we have a law that a non-member can be a minister for 6 months. But within 6 months, he has to get elected. Otherwise, he will no longer continue as the minister. So, here you see that there is a fusion of the executive and the legislature. You see, the vice versa is not correct. The members of the executive must be the members of the legislature. But all the members of the legislature must not be the members of the executive. As I know, which of the following statement is correct regarding a parliamentary system? The members of the executive, they must be the members of the legislature. Take. The second, the members of the legislature, they must be the members of the executive. It is a wrong statement. So, in the examination, you must be cautious. क्योंकि आजकल क्या है, 2 statements are there. How many statements are correct? Only one. और उसमें स्टूडेंट्स क्या करते हैं? Only one को सोचते हैं, अच्छा one only. It is a human error that I have seen. You may be knowing the answer, But when you read it, you must be very careful. How many statements are correct? Which one of the following is correct? So you should be very cautious. That is why the test series are important. Test series are not important for the purpose of the questions. Test series are important to keep you in nerves with the examination pattern. How many of, which one of. So ये practice रहेगा ना, so you will be able to pinpoint, अच्छा which one. कभी कभी हम लोग से भी गलती होती है, अच्छा which one, how many. तो ये ना, you should be cautious about it. पहले क्योंकि एग्जामिनेशन में it is all about technique. It is all about technique. At the end of the day, you need to be very cautious while reading the questions also. So there is a fusion of the executive and legislature. You see, all our ministers, they are either the members of the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha. Then third point that we have written, the executive is responsible to the legislature. It is responsible to the legislature. It means that if you don't have a majority, your government will no longer be. We have got the concept of no confidence motion. A no confidence motion is passed in the lower house, in your Vidhan Sabha or in the Lok Sabha. It means your government is responsible. Article 75 clause 3 talks about collective responsibility, that the Council of Ministers is collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. So such type of questions are asked in the examination. So if the question is responsible to the legislature, that will be the correct statement. Or if very specifically it is mentioned, especially to the lower house, then you need to encircle lower house. Because parliament or legislature may consist of both the houses. So, but if lower house is not there, if it is legislature, you need to encircle legislature. Your one question is done. ऐसे ही पढ़ना है. When you read the things, okay, this is the topic and this is the question, so that you will not go here and there. You'll have to be very much. Prelims में कुछ नहीं. Indian polity is the safest section. It's the safest section. मैं हमेशा I teach the crash courses और ये सब. तो safest आपको मैं बताता हूँ. It is safest. मतलब class lectures के note पे you will be able to do. If 20 questions are asked, 18 to 19 questions will be from your lecture notes. हाँ, lecture notes से नहीं, मतलब if you have understood it, you will be able to answer it. Even the most difficult things also. हाँ हाँ नहीं नहीं हाँ मैं can be. अब coming to presidential system. देखो, in a presidential system, the head of the state and the government is the same. You see the US president, he is the head of the state and he is the head of the government. All the decisions are taken by him and he is the signing authority also. The bills which are passed by the Congress, he signs it as the head of the state, but as the head of the executive, he takes all the decisions also. And here, a minister cannot be a member of the legislature. Clear-cut separation of powers. So there is separation of powers. Now, before I discuss with you this concept of separation of powers from the prelims point of view, I'll just tell you how the presidential system really works with the with the help of an illustration. देखो, the US case, the electorate, it elects the members of the legislature and it also elects the chief executive. So there are two separate elections which take place. Legislature means the US Congress. House of Representatives is the lower house. And Senate. So the electorate, it elects the House of Representatives every 2 years. It is just like our Lok Sabha. The term of the Lok Sabha is 5 years, but House of Representatives 2 years and 6 years of Senate. So here even the members of the House of Representatives and Senate, they are directly elected by the people, and in a separate election the US President is elected. So there is no effect of any change in the legislative structure in the House of Representatives or Senate on the term of the chief executive, that is the president. Nothing to do. He can be removed only by the process of impeachment. And here, even if in the House of Representatives, the political party of the president will lose its majority, it hardly matters. It will lose its majority here, it hardly matters. And there is clear-cut separation of powers. Here you say that after the chief executive, means the president is elected, the president appoints the persons of his choice as the ministers. They are termed as secretaries. So in America, the ministers are termed as secretaries. And the secretaries, they must not be the members of the legislature. They cannot. If a member of the Senate or House of Representatives is appointed as a secretary, then he will resign from the House and then he will take oath as the secretary. You cannot be a member of the executive as well as the legislature at the same point of time. Clear-cut separation. And then here also they will have no role in the passage of the bills. Indirectly they can influence it, that is the president can influence, that is a different. But they will not be presenting the bills. In our country, the ministers, they are the part of the legislature. They present the bill, they take part in the discussions and deliberations, but it is not the case of United States of America. There is a clear-cut separation of powers. Whenever we talk about separation of powers, basically, we have got 3 organs of the government based on the 3 functions: lawmaking, law implementation, and law adjudication. These are the three functions of a state. During monarchy, all these powers were vested in the king. The king used to be the sole giver of the law, he was the sole implementer of the law, and he was the sole judge. But if these three powers are vested in one hand, obviously it will lead to tyranny, it will lead to dictatorship. That is why the three functions of the state must be in the hands of three different organs or three different bodies. This is the concept of separation of powers. There is a difference between division of powers and separation of powers. Separation of powers is used in this context. So here you can write the doctrine of SOP, separation of powers, was propounded by the French philosopher Montesquieu. The French philosopher Montesquieu. Full stop. He was of the view that if the three functions of the state are vested in a single person, or a single institution, it may lead to dictatorship. Full stop. In democracy, these three functions must be vested in different bodies, vested in different bodies or institutions. Full stop. In the next sentence you write, as India is having a parliamentary system, a strict separation of powers may not be feasible between the executive and the legislature. Full stop. But Article 50 provides for separation of judiciary from the executive. Underline Article 50. This is another question which is generally asked in the examination, even if you have not mugged up all the directive principles of state policy. Okay? So Article 50, separation of powers. So you need to correlate the things. So you will be able to remember the things also. Achha, separation of powers, Article 50. That is separation of judiciary from executive. Then This is, we can say, this was the concept of separation of powers, and understanding based questions may be there in the exam. Which one of the following is a key element of democracy? Separation of powers is an important element of democracy. So parliamentary system, one question. आप जब घर जाओगे ना, when you go home, तो ना एक बार आप PYQs देख लेना. So उससे क्या होता है ना कि you will get an idea. I do not ask students to go through the questions which have been given in Lakshmikant's book. I don't ask my students, but PYQs and the questions which are asked in your State Public Service Commission examination also, because you will get a real feel that what type of questions are asked. Because क्या होता है ना कि what they do is that they bombard the aspirants with questions which are not at all asked in the examination. ज्यादातर टेस्ट सीरीज में आप यही देखोगे. हाँ, ज्यादातर टेस्ट सीरीज में आप वही देखो, अरे बहुत डिफिकल्ट लेवल था. यूपीएससी का लेवल इज नॉट डिफिकल्ट लेवल. UPSC is an examination to select the good candidates. It is not to eliminate. It is not to eliminate. This is the positive thing that we need to understand. So the standard is not कि बहुत difficult है, हम नहीं कर पाए. Oh, very good. ऐसा नहीं है. It's not like that. If you solve the PYQs, you will see that the questions which are asked here and there and the standard of questions which are asked in the examination, there is a hell and heaven difference. So that is why you need to base your preparation on the PYQs. That will help you out. And your concepts has to be very much clear. So one question, parliamentary system, it is done. Then another feature of the Indian Constitution is that it provides for a quasi-federal system. Or we can say it is a federation with strong unitary features. बोल बेटा. हर 2 साल में. और सेनेट जो मेंबर्स होते हैं, 1/3 of them retire every 2 years. Their term is 6 years. So the things that we follow in India. But the basic difference is that there also the members of the Senate are elected directly by the people. हाँ, वो लोग है ना, 6 years आपको आप चले गए, फिर 6 years के बाद they will elect another representative. So they are also directly elected by the people. This is the basic difference. But in our country, the members of the Rajya Sabha are elected by the elected MLAs. But there the people directly elect the members of the Senate also. Now, coming to this aspect, a federation with a strong. इसके पहले एक चीज और आपको बता देता हूं कि in some of the countries there is a combination of both parliamentary system as well as presidential system. That is termed as quasi-presidential system. And quasi-presidential system is there in France, in Russia, as well as in Sri Lanka also. And it is a combination of both the parliamentary system as well as the presidential system. But as it is more closer to the presidential system, it is termed as quasi-presidential and not quasi-parliamentary. It has features of both. For example, if you talk about the French system, in France, the French president is directly elected by the people. He is directly elected by the people in France. So, what is the difference here between the American president and the French president with respect to election? The American president, as you may have read, he is elected by an electoral college. The people do not directly vote to elect the American president. They first of all elect the members of the electoral college, and every state elects as many representatives as it sends to the Congress. And the elections are held to elect the electoral college is held in the month of November. And these members, they take part in the final election of the American president. Directly the people do not take part. But yes, if you are choosing your representative from your states, then acha, I want to vote for the president, for Donald Trump. He belongs to this political party. So what you need to do in your constituency, the person of Trump's political party will be voted by, so that if he gets elected, he will vote for Trump. So in your mind, so it is not direct election, but in France, the French president is directly elected by the people, and there the French president has to get the candidate has to get majority of the votes, then only he will be getting elected. Majority means more than 50% of the votes, then only the candidate will be declared as elected. If two candidates are there, obviously one will get the majority, other will not get the majority. But in a multi-cornered contest, there can be division of votes. No one may get majority. Suppose 3 or 4 or 5 candidates are there. No one will get the majority. The votes will be divided. So, in that case, re-election takes place among the first top 2 candidates. Among the first top 2 candidates. That is known as runoff. It is known as runoff. And in the runoff means there will be re-election among the top 2 candidates, and obviously one will get the majority. So in one of the main examination they had asked this question also. जो आपने पूछा ना कि सर सब पढ़ना पड़ेगा, UPSC never asks vague questions. So in that year the election for the Indian president has also taken place, the election to elect the American president has also taken place, and the French president also taken place. People generally follow the election of the American president. But Macron was elected as the president through runoff. And that is why such type of questions were asked. Random questions are not asked by the UPSC. Questions which are in the news. That is why we say that you read newspapers, so that you will be acquainted where the president's election is going on, some unique process is there or not. That is the logic behind it. So whenever you will come across this term runoff, acha, it is used to elect the French president. Such type of eye-catching words have to be there with you. And there, after the French president is elected, he appoints a person of his choice as the prime minister. He is the personal choice of the prime minister, of the president. And so it is a feature of the presidential system. Prime minister to be appointed by the president. But the other ministers are appointed by the president on the advice of the prime minister. It is a feature of the parliamentary system. In our country, you see, the ministers are appointed by the president on the advice of the prime minister. So it is a feature of the parliamentary system. Then the ministers not to be the members of the legislature. They are not to be the members of the legislature. This is a feature of the presidential system. That is, the ministers are not to be the members of the legislature. But the unique aspect about France is that even though the ministers are not the members of the legislature, they take part in the proceedings of the National Assembly. National Assembly is the lower house. So they take part in the proceedings of the National Assembly, and they are responsible to the National Assembly. Means the Prime Minister and his team can be thrown out by a no confidence motion by the National Assembly, which is a feature of parliamentary system. That is responsibility. तो फिर आप बोलोगे सर इसमें how the system works really? Prime Minister तो President will have to take into consideration many things. So it is not always necessary that in France the Prime Minister and the President should belong to the same political party. And suppose if in the National Assembly another political party has got majority and if the president appoints a person of his political party as the prime minister, obviously the other day a no confidence motion will be moved against him. So here in America, in France, sometimes there exists cohabitation. Cohabitation. Cohabitation means the president and the prime minister from different political parties. ये मजबूरी है, ये कुछ चीजें मजबूरी होती है, पॉलिटिकल कंपल्शंस आर देयर. हाँ, इसलिए मैं कुछ वर्ड्स तुम्हें बताता हूं. कोहैबिटेशन, अच्छा, कोहैबिटेशन एग्जिस्ट इन क्वासी प्रेसिडेंशियल सिस्टम, ये चीज है. जैसे श्रीलंका में भी द सेम सिस्टम इज देयर, बट आप देखोगे कि देयर इज अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन द पॉलिटिकल कल्चर ऑफ फ्रांस एंड दैट ऑफ श्रीलंका एंड ऑफ रशिया ऑल्सो, बट डिफरेंसेस आर देयर. सो दैट इज व्हाई सच, और आप बोलोगे सर, स्टूडेंट जनरली आस्क मी, सर तो डिस्प्यूट नहीं होता है प्रेसिडेंट एंड प्राइम मिनिस्टर में? इफ देयर इज नो डिस्प्यूट, यस, डिस्प्यूट तो हो सकता है, लेकिन देयर इज क्लैरिटी इन फ्रांस. व्हाट इज द क्लैरिटी? In a quasi-presidential system, all the powers are vested in the president. And if the president wishes, he can delegate some of the powers to the prime minister and his team, and he will take rest. And if he wishes, he can assume all the powers and ask the prime minister to assist him. All the powers are there with the president. Real powers are not there with the prime minister. पहले क्या था कि द मेंबर्स ऑफ द म्युनिसिपल बॉडीज दे यूज्ड टू इलेक्ट द फ्रेंच प्रेसिडेंट. उसमें था कि चलो ठीक है, इन इंटरनेशनल अफेयर्स द फ्रेंच प्रेसिडेंट विल हैव द से, एंड इन डोमेस्टिक पॉलिटिक्स द प्राइम मिनिस्टर विल हैव अ से. नाउ वी हैव गॉट डायरेक्ट इलेक्शन ऑफ द फ्रेंच प्रेसिडेंट, which has increased the power of the French president. So the concept of conflict will not arise in ये सब. इसीलिए वो लोग दूसरे, he can appoint the person of another political party as the prime minister also. It all, that is what I said. Everything depends on the political culture of that country. In Sri Lanka, they had made a mess of the things 4-5 years earlier. The president had elected the person of his choice as the prime minister. He had no majority. He had no majority. So basically, it all depends. Russia, so I never give example of Russia. I never give example of Russia because from the day that you were born, you may be hearing the name of only one person. So all the laws are being changed for that one person. Sometimes he becomes Prime Minister Putin, the President Putin, the same person. When he becomes the Prime Minister, hey, give all the powers to me. Hey, President, you take rest. Then he again becomes the President, hey, Prime Minister, you take rest. So it all depends on the political culture, basically. No. It is not necessary. It is not necessary. Suppose if the President has won the election and if his political party has no majority in the National Assembly, lower house, then only there can be cohabitation. Under normal, not under normal circumstances. But there is a hearing impact. If you hear it's a cohabitation, it is there in France. Runoff. Such type of things have to be there in your brain. Bullet.
शायद उन्होंने भी रिजाइन कर दिया बिकॉज ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट. तो इस तरीके से जैसे अभी आपने बताया कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर जो है वो काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स को भी इलेक्ट करते हैं, उनके बेसिस से होता है. तो इस तरीके से मान लो 11th मंथ में अगर दोनों प्राइम मिनिस्टर रिजाइन कर रहे हैं तो बार-बार तो काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर सेलेक्ट करेंगे, बार-बार मतलब ऐसे
क्या फर्क पड़ता है? वो उनका हेडेक है, वो समझे फ्रांस वाले. हाँ, वो जो समझे, वो जो उनको उचित लगे करे. होता नहीं है ना, वहां नहीं होता है. Well, that is what I said. It all depends on the political system that they have because the real power lies with the president only, and वो तो they are just to assist. Opposition नहीं होता है वहां पे. There is a different system that works even for the French president. उनको हटाने का भी एक बहुत अलग process होता है. The legislature has no say in the impeachment or the removal of the president. उसको कोई say नहीं होता. There is a different body for that purpose.
जैसे क्या लॉ लाना, सो अब दो पॉलिटिकल पार्टी तो किसी का कुछ होगा, किसी का कुछ होगा. अब जब दोनों को साथ में काम करने हैं तो
नहीं, ऐसे नहीं होता है. इसीलिए मैं बोला कि इट ऑल डिपेंड्स ऑन द पॉलिटिकल कल्चर. आप इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट में यू सी द थिंग्स, because we have seen the Indian political culture only. It's not like that. Many countries are succeeding by adopting a more matured political culture. ठीक है ना. तो एक पॉलिटिकल कल्चर एक बहुत ही अलग टॉपिक होगा, कभी किसी दिन टाइम मिलेगा तो वी कैन टॉक. नाउ कमिंग टू द नेक्स्ट एस्पेक्ट दैट वी आर डिस्कसिंग. ये तो आया, तो ये सब दिस टर्म्स आर देयर. क्वासी प्रेसिडेंशियल सिस्टम बोलो. वो तो बाउंड्रीज का अल्टरेशन का होता है. हाँ हाँ हाँ, दैट कैन बी डन. हाँ, वो हमारे नहीं आता है अभी, प्रीलिम्स में नहीं पूछे आज तक, कभी नहीं पूछा है, कभी नहीं पूछा. हाँ, ये तो करते हैं हम लोग, उसको डिलिमिटेशन का नाम दे सकते हैं. ठीक है, वो तो आपका है कि वो, लेकिन है कि पॉलिटिकल पार्टी फॉर इट्स ओन बेनिफिट्स. ठीक है, ये सब करते हैं तो दे कैन डू दैट, उसमें कोई इशू नहीं. ठीक है ना, वो अपना अपना सिस्टम है उन लोगों का. नाउ कमिंग टू द नेक्स्ट एस्पेक्ट दैट वी आर डिस्कसिंग, इट इज अ फेडरेशन. With a strong unitary features. Now from here, what type of questions can be asked in the prelims examination? That has to be focused on, that we need to focus on. First of all, when we talk about India, there are different nomenclatures which have been given to India. First of all, if we talk about India, the drafting committee you all know what is a federal system, what is a unitary system, you all know. Clear na? I feel that yes, you know. Now the drafting committee of the constitution, it held that India is a federal system. Then Professor K.C. Ware, he held that India was quasi-federal. Now, what they said, they did not say it is a different thing. But in social sciences, the views are not wrong. The facts may be wrong. The views are not wrong. We'll have to understand the context in which the views are given. So for that, we will have to understand a very basic thing, that what are the characteristics or the features of a true federation. Straightforward questions are asked in the prelims examination, that which one of the following is a feature or a characteristic of a true federation. First, a written constitution. Second, supremacy of the constitution. division of powers, rigid constitution, a bicameral legislature, and an independent judiciary. These are the features or essential conditions of a true federation. Why a written constitution? Because if the things will not be written down, then there will be conflict. And the document where the powers have been written down of the central government and of the state government, that must be the supreme law of the land. Then there has to be clear-cut division of powers. These are the powers of the central government, these are the powers of the state government. Then rigid constitution. The constitution should not be easily amended. The process must be a bit rigid. Otherwise, it will become a plaything in the hands of the center. Then a bicameral legislature. One house will represent the popular will and the other house will represent the states. And an independent judiciary. Why? To arbitrate the disputes that may arise between the center and the states or between the states themselves. Now, if we talk about India, it is, or I will tell you that these are the only features of a true federation. In your MCQs, in your examination, if you see any other option, you are not supposed to encircle it. ठीक? No one should try to become Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in the examination. पॉलिटी में बच्चों को रहता है कि आई एम द बी. सर ऐसा नहीं होगा. अरे तुमने लिखा संविधान क्या? ठीक है, यू हैव नॉट रिटन इट. So you are not supposed to be a political scientist. You are reading this subject out of compulsion because you are going to appear in the examination. So we need to be very professional here. These are the features means these are the features. वो नहीं कि कोई option दे देगा उसमें, अरे वो तो that option will be given to confuse you. So you are not supposed, suppose in the examination, in place of an independent judiciary, it will be written committed judiciary. हाँ, integrated judiciary, committed judiciary. अरे क्यों? फिर नहीं सर वो तो ऐसे, अरे तुमने लिख दिया थोड़ा सही हो जाएगा तब. हाँ, उस बच्चे स्टूडेंट्स है ना, कुछ भी टेस्ट सीरीज में कुछ टिक कर उससे बहस करते नहीं सर ऐसे. अरे तुमने कहा, मजबूरी में पढ़ रहे हो, यू आर रीडिंग दिस सब्जेक्ट एंड यू आर थिंकिंग योरसेल्फ एज अ पॉलिटिकल साइंटिस्ट. यस, इट्स नॉट लाइक दैट. और उसमें क्या होता है कि आप उन सब टीचर से बात करो, बेचारे 4 बार एग्जाम दिए, खुद पढ़ाने लगते हैं, फिर वो और घबरा जाते हैं, हाँ सही तो नहीं बोल रहा. तो हाँ, यस, सो यू नीड टू बी कॉन्सेप्चुअली वेरी मच क्लियर. द थिंग्स विच आर देयर, दे आर देयर. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, यू सी what is the difference between an independent judiciary and a committed judiciary? Committed judiciary is a judiciary which is committed towards the government, central government, which is a negative aspect. Committed judiciary is a negative aspect. And if a judiciary is commitment, it is committed towards the government in power, it will never be independent. And in a federal system, the judiciary has to be independent so that it will arbitrate the disputes that may arise between the center and the states or between the states themselves, neutrally. That is why an independent judiciary is there. So you'll have to be very much focused. That is why, yes, a political scientist, जिन्होंने graduation में पढ़ा होगा political science, you may have read that these are the features which have been given by the political scientists. Now, so this is one question that we have done. ऐसे ही करके पढ़ना है. The questions will not be difficult, I am telling you. One question from you. Now, there can be question from the other aspect. Which of the following shows the unitary feature of the Indian Constitution? For that, an understanding has to be there. अभी तो हुआ why the Constituent Assembly says that it is a federal system. Because in India we have a written constitution which is supreme. Then There is a division of power. We have got 3 lists. Then the provisions regarding the center state relations have been made rigid in nature. After this discussion, I will discuss that aspect with you. Then we have a bicameral legislature. The Lok Sabha represents the popular will and the Rajya Sabha represents the states. And we have the Supreme Court as an independent arbiter of disputes that may arise between the center and the states or between the states themselves. That is why the drafting committee may have said that India is a federal system. Now, coming to Professor K.C. Ware, quasi-federal. Here you see that those who feel that India is not a truly federal country, they have termed it as quasi-federal, a federation with strong unitary biasness. These nomenclatures have been used. Why? Because such scholars have taken into consideration America as the role model. These are the features in America. This is not the feature in your country. So your country is not a truly federal system. So America has been taken as a truly federal system. Now, and quasi-federal is not a derogatory term. It is not a derogatory term. And we adopted this system. We did not went through the system which is there in America. We did not blindly follow it. In America, they have got a dual constitution, dual citizenship. We don't have. We don't have. Why? Because we were a country having multicultural society, a plural society. And basically, in a plural society, if you say that you'll have to take into consideration diversity. From Kashmir to Kanyakumari, the whole country is divided in the name of religion, language, caste, regional aspirations are there. So, that is why we followed the Canadian model. Canada is an example of a multicultural society. And in Canada, they have a strong center. So, we followed the model which is followed in Canada because of diversity. So, it is not a derogatory term. So, in India, if you see that why Professor K.C. Ware and some others, they have said that India is not a truly federal country, there some strong reasons are there that makes India a quasi-federal country. So, the logic you can write it, heading you can write, unitary features of Indian Constitution or India. Center as strong. क्योंकि एग्जाम में ना क्लियर आएगा which one of the following is a unitary feature. First, it has a single constitution. It has a single constitution with single citizenship. Next, Article 3 authorizes the parliament to alter the area or boundary of a state or change the name of a state, alter the area or boundary of a state or change the name of a state. Full stop. In other words, the states are at the mercy of the union government. Then next, an analysis of the three lists, an analysis of the three lists given in schedule 7, shows that you can write in points or bullets. First, more number of subjects and more important subjects are in the union list. Next, in case of concurrent list, if both the center and the states make a law on the same subject, the union law prevails. So if there is a conflict, then the union law will prevail over the state law. Then the residuary power lies with the union. What is the residuary power?
Not mention or may come in future, for example. So they would be automatically the powers.
So the subjects which have not been mentioned in any of the three lists, they are considered to be residuary subject. The word residuary has not been mentioned in our constitution as such, but yes, it has been mentioned that the subjects which are not there in any of the lists, they are to be under the jurisdiction of the union government. There is no need to mug up the articles as such. Right? Indian polity is more than the articles. It is more than the articles. So even if you remember this one, even if you do not remember the articles as such, it hardly matters. So the residuary power lies with the union. Fourth point you can write. The union has exclusive legislative jurisdiction. The union has exclusive legislative jurisdiction over the subjects in the union list. I have used the word exclusive. ठीक है, exclusive. Full stop. And the states have normally legislative jurisdiction over the subjects in the state list. underline normally. But under the following conditions, the parliament can make a law. I repeat, under the following conditions, the parliament can make a law on a subject in the state list. यहां से एक क्वेश्चन बनेगा, देयर विल बी वन क्वेश्चन. देखो, हियर यू नीड टू हाईलाइट दीज 2 पॉइंट्स. यू नीड टू हाईलाइट दीज 2. सिर्फ ऐसे टिक कर दो जैसे मैं करता हूं, रेड पेन से आप टिक कर दो. You need to highlight these 2 points. You need to remember it. Then, this you need to remember, that under which of the following conditions the parliament can make a law on a subject in the state list. First, under Article 249, on the authorization of the Rajya Sabha. On the authorization of the Rajya Sabha. I'll explain it because some of you may or may not have attended the classes. कुछ अपने खुद भी पढ़े होंगे, ठीक है ना? So some clarity has to be there. I will make you understand. देखो, basically, if we talk about Article 249, what we have written on the authorization of the Rajya Sabha. So here, if the Rajya Sabha passes a resolution authorizing the parliament to make a law on a subject in the state list on the ground of national interest, the parliament can make a law on that subject. That is Article 249. So, the authorization has to be by the Rajya Sabha. Suppose we have got these 2 houses. This is our Lok Sabha, this is our Rajya Sabha. So, if this house will pass a resolution by special majority, 2/3 of the members present and voting, the first type of special majority that we had discussed. So, if this house will pass a resolution that on the ground of national interest, hereby the Rajya Sabha authorizes the parliament to make a law on the subject of land, which is a subject in the state list. So, they have authorized. After they have authorized, then only the bill can be introduced in the houses of the parliament. Both the houses will pass the bill. Yani the bill will be introduced here first. They will authorize and then only the bill will be presented in either house of the parliament. Both the houses will pass it. Then it will be signed by the president and then it will become a law. Authorization of the Rajya Sabha on the ground of national interest. Why the Rajya Sabha has been given the power here? Because it is the representative of the states. So, there is no need to remember in detail. But yes, Rajya Sabha will pass a resolution that yes, law has to be made on this subject on the ground of national interest. Work is done. So, then after that the bill will be introduced. You'll have to remember like this. Never try to mug up the things. Then, such a law shall be valid only for 1 year at a time. ठीक है, लिख लो ब्रैकेट में, कोई दिक्कत नहीं, लिख लो यहीं पे, लिखो. Such a law shall be valid for not more than 1 year at a time. तो ठीक है, you have made my work easier also. नहीं तो मैं sentence titillation when I would have discussed with you, या special powers of Rajya Sabha, I would have said it. तो अच्छा हुआ. So a law, ये सब prelims में आता है. A law made under Article 249 is valid only for 1 year at a time. At a time means if the Rajya Sabha will again pass a resolution after 1 year that the law has to be extended, then the law will be extended. Otherwise, the law will lapse after 1 year. Then secondly, नहीं कितने भी लॉ बना दो तो ऑथराइज करें, पार्लियामेंट कर. नहीं बेटा, फिर वही सेम प्रोसेस होगा. द सेम प्रोसेस विल बी देयर. दे विल बी पासिंग अ रेजोल्यूशन ऑथराइजिंग द पार्लियामेंट टू इनैक्ट द लॉ अगेन. तो एक्सटेंशन होगा. देन अंडर आर्टिकल 250 during the proclamation of national emergency, so when the national emergency is proclaimed in the country, at that point of time the parliament assumes the power of making laws on any subject in the state list. In a layman's language, we say that the state list is converted into concurrent list. And when the state list is converted into concurrent list, then the parliament can make laws on any subject in the state list. But after the national emergency is revoked, such a law will continue for 6 months, or after 6 months it will lapse. The states will make their own laws. अगर उसके पहले they have made their laws तो ठीक है. If not, then the law will lapse and they will have to make their own laws. Then under Article 252, on the request of two or more state legislatures, now here you can write as note, if two or more state legislatures, if two or more state legislatures pass resolutions requesting the parliament to make a law on a state subject, request the parliament to make a law on a state subject, the parliament can make a law on that subject. The parliament can make a law on that subject. Then note number 2 you write, such a law shall be valid only for the states who have requested for it. Valid here will mean binding on the states who have requested for it. So it shall be binding only on the states who have requested for it. Full stop. The other states may also implement the law. may also implement the law. First, next note you can write here under this point only. Such a law can be revoked. Such a law can be revoked only by the parliament. Revoke means repeal. Revoke or oblique you can write repealed. By the parliament only on the request of the concerned states. On the request of the concerned states. So it is not that the concerned states will say, oh no, we'll not follow it now. If they want, they will have to request the parliament again that you revoke it, you repeal it. And if the parliament will repeal it, then only the law will be repealed. Otherwise, it will be binding. ऐसा बहुत कम होता है. Rarely we have seen. Way back in 1975, Punjab and Haryana had requested the parliament to make laws related to urban land. So the parliament had passed the Urban Land Regulation, Regulation Act, which was binding, Ceiling Regulation Act, which was binding on both Punjab and Haryana. तो वो अलसरा था, ULCRA बोलते थे, Urban Land Ceiling Regulation Act. So they requested कुछ साल के बाद कि चलो ठीक है, we don't want it. So the parliament repealed that law. But arbitrarily ये नहीं है कि the states will say no, we'll not follow it now. If they don't want to follow it, request the parliament and the law will be repealed. नहीं, क्योंकि हाँ रिक्वेस्ट किया है ना, you have requested me कि sir, then you will request me, sir, we don't want this law, then I will repeal it. हाँ, if you feel that okay, the law is good, you can also implement. There is nothing that you should not implement the central law. हाँ, you can do it of your own. Then next, under Article 253, to implement an international treaty or an agreement you see, river water is a subject in the state list. But we have seen that the central government also makes laws on that. Why? To implement the river water sharing treaties. Then, under Article 356, during the proclamation of state emergency in a state. Which state is having state emergency nowadays? Manipur. So for Manipur, the laws are being made by the parliament. And yahan pe bhi the law is the same, that such a law will be there till 6 months only after the state emergency will be revoked. And if the state government will make the laws before 6 months, obviously the central law will become null and void. These are the 5 conditions under which the parliament. So even if you do not remember this article numbers, it hardly matters. No one is going to ask you, hey, what is Article 249, what is Article 250? But yes, this aspect you need to remember. Then coming to, bolo beta.
So can we say कि political will of the central government जो नहीं?
वो नहीं, वो तो coalition politics का एक अलग aspect है. That is a, वो जो आप जो issue बता रहे हो, that is a different thing. The All India Trinamool Congress was a part of the coalition of the central government at that point of time when Dr. Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister. So she had pressurized the central government not to sign the Tista River Water Agreement. Otherwise, she had said that our political party will withdraw the support. So that was a political blackmailing, in fact. So that is a part of coalition politics. That is the role of the Prime Minister there of coalition politics. That is why the government, Dr. Manmohan Singh did not sign the bill. So that was a political aspect. So these are the, देखो इसके अंदर से how, what type of questions can बोलो बेटा. नहीं, लेजिस्लेचर रेजोल्यूशन पास करेगी. हाँ, जैसे इफ दोनों स्टेट हैं, सपोज कि इफ असम इफ ओडिशा एंड वेस्ट बंगाल want to have a common law, ठीक. So the legislatures of both the states, Odisha and West Bengal, they will we can say pass a resolution, दोनों simple majority से in their, and then they will request the parliament that you make a law on this subject, common law for us. हाँ, फिर आप लोग के लिए लॉ बन गया. If the law has been made for you, and if Jharkhand feels this law is good, मैं भी इंप्लीमेंट कर लूंगा. गवर्नमेंट इंप्लीमेंट करेगी ना. हाँ, लेजिस्लेचर उस लॉ को बनाएगी. वो कल एक वो पास होता है, रेजोल्यूशन पास होता है कि विल ऑल्सो बी फॉलोइंग द सेंट्रल लॉ. ये जो लॉ बनाया गया है विल ऑल्सो फॉलो इट. हाँ हाँ हाँ, वो तो गवर्नमेंट के आसेस पे होता है, वो तो आपके जुरिस्डिक्शन में है, क्योंकि स्टेट लिस्ट का सब्जेक्ट है. बिकॉज दे हैव अच्छा, इट इज ए गुड लॉ. ये तो हमारे दिमाग में भी नहीं आया, इतना अच्छा लॉ बनाया, चलो हम लोग इंप्लीमेंट करते. तो गवर्नमेंट तुम्हारी है ना, तुम्हारा मेरी मेजोरिटी है, तभी तो मैं चीफ मिनिस्टर हूं ना. नहीं, बट का तो सवाल ही नहीं है. अब हेमंत सोरेन की मेजोरिटी है तभी तो वो सरकार में है ना. सीएम कैसे बनेंगे? मैं सीएम ऐसे तो नहीं होगा. आई मस्ट हैव द मेजोरिटी हियर. सो इफ द सीएम इज सेइंग समथिंग, इट मींस दैट द लेजिस्लेचर इज सेइंग. ये चीज है. सो इट इज अ कंप्लीटली पॉलिटिकल एस्पेक्ट. इसमें कुछ हो ही नहीं सकता है. अब नरेंद्र मोदी, वो लोग ये करना चाहते हैं. ही हैज गॉट द सपोर्ट ऑफ द लेजिस्लेचर. लोकसभा राज्यसभा पास कर दिया बिल, उसका तुम लोग जो कर रहे हैं सीधे. और वो उसमें क्या होता है कि गवर्नमेंट तो उन्हीं की है ना, इसीलिए कुछ इसमें होता ही नहीं है. ये तो कंप्लीटली, तो पार्टी से तुम जीते क्यों? तुम इंडिपेंडेंट जीत के दिखा लेते. ये तो पॉलिटिकल सिचुएशन होता है ना. गवर्नमेंट तो उसी की होती है ना जिसकी सरकार, जिसका बहुमत होता है, जिसकी मेजॉरिटी होती है. तो अगर जिसका ये है, तो ऑब्वियसली सपोज कि इफ आई हैव गॉट द, सपोज द तृणमूल कांग्रेस, अब ममता बनर्जी, अब तृणमूल कांग्रेस हैज गॉट मेजॉरिटी इन द वेस्ट बंगाल लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली. नाउ इफ शी विल टेक अ डिसीजन, if a no confidence motion will be passed against her? No, because she has got the majority. Suppose in the other states, suppose in Odisha, the Bharatiya Janata Party is in majority. So if the chief minister takes a decision, means the government has taken a decision. और इसको तो हम लोग बोलते भी है ना, it is the dictatorship of the cabinet. It is the dictatorship of the cabinet. तो बेसिकली इट वाज ए क्वेश्चन विच वाज आस्क्ड इन वन ऑफ द मेन एग्जामिनेशन आल्सो, जो आप पूछ रहे हो, इसलिए मैं इधर उधर नहीं चलेगी, आपको बता रहा हूं. क्वेश्चन इन द मेन एग्जामिनेशन कि ये जो कैबिनेट का जो आज पावर जो होता है ना, दैट हैज लेड टू द डिक्लाइन ऑफ द पार्लियामेंट्री सुप्रीमेसी. सो ऐसे भी देयर इज डिक्टेटरशिप ऑफ द कैबिनेट, बिकॉज द डिसीजंस आर टेकन इन द कैबिनेट एंड you have got the majority in the assembly or the legislature, so you get the law passed also. So whatever the cabinet wishes, obviously that law is made. So that is the political situation. Yes. The same process has to be there for the repeal also. Now, so this was the explanation of this point. Conditions under which, then next unitary feature you can write. Administrative directives. administrative directives. Now here you can write under Articles 256, comma 257 clause 2, 257 clause 2 and 257 clause 3, the union executive, I repeat, under Articles 256, 257 clause 2 and 257 clause 3, comma, the union executive can give directives to a state government. And as per Article 365, if a state government fails to abide by the administrative directives given by the union executive, comma, it is to be considered as breakdown of constitutional machinery in the state. अभी तो सिर्फ मैं आपको ये क्वेश्चन करा रहा हूं कि which one of the following is a unitary feature. So administrative directive is a unitary feature. बाकी ये सब आर्टिकल्स में आपको डिटेल में I will be telling you when I will be discussing the center state relations with you, so that the things will be more clear. As I will give you an idea. Article 256 says that the parliamentary law has to be implemented by the state executive. I am telling you the summary. And the union executive can give directions, that is how these laws have to be implemented. The rules have to be prescribed. Then Article 257 clause 2, it holds that the union executive can give directives to the state for the construction and maintenance of the communication links of national and defense importance, like the wireless towers of the defense and we can say national importance. And Article 257 clause 3 holds that the union executive can give directives to a state for the protection of the railway property within the state, protection of the railway lines, railway stations within the state. And Article 365 says that if a state government fails to abide by these administrative directives, it will be considered as breakdown of constitutional machinery in the state. It is silent that whether there will be precedent rule or not, but it is saying that it will be considered as breakdown of constitutional machinery. It means that the states will have to abide by the administrative directives issued by the, so it is a unitary feature. Then more important tax subjects are with the center. So if you analyze the financial relations also, you see the union government has the power to collect and appropriate the more important subjects like the corporate tax, customs duty, and it is not binding on the central government to share it with the states. Then integrated judiciary. subordinate court, high court, and then Supreme Court. Except under certain situation, you cannot directly approach the Supreme Court. Then all India services, the officers of the all India services, they are appointed by the central government, but they are posted in the states. They get the state cadre. So you see, this is also a unitary feature, that the officers will be appointed by the center, but they will serve in the states. These things are not negative things. These things are not negative things. Why all India services are there? First of all, uniformity. That is, the common talent level will be available to all the states with respect to policy making and policy implementation. Because the officers who will be indulged in the policy making work, in the policy implementation, they will be selected through the same examination. So the level will be the same, whether in Assam, or we can say in Goa, or we can say in Chhattisgarh, the same talent level will be available. So this is, we can say, the speciality of the All India services. And many of the state governments, they do not have the examinations, the state services examinations at regular intervals. So obviously you will not have the deficiency, or we can say the lack of the officers at that level. Then governor's office. The governor, who is the head of the state executive, is nominated by the central government. He is not responsible to the state government. He is not responsible to the people of the state also. So it is considered as a unitary feature. This is also not derogatory, because this question was discussed in the Constituent Assembly also. That is why not an elected governor? So in the Constituent Assembly, three views were discussed. First, some of the members were of the view that the governor to be directly elected by the people. Now, this was the first view which was given. Then, when this view was being discussed, then there was a general understanding in the Constituent Assembly that if we will have two elected persons in the state, then basically what will happen? There will be conflict between the governor as well as the council of ministers, because both the authorities will be elected one. The governor will claim legitimacy as he will be the sole person who will be elected directly, and the council of ministers, it will also claim legitimacy, because in a parliamentary form of government, the head of the government is the real head. So a conflict between the governor, who is directly elected, and the council of ministers, as per the convention of the parliamentary system, will not be fruitful for the administration of the state. So this view was rejected. Then second view was that the governor to be elected by the MLAs of that state. Some of the members said that why not the MLAs to elect the governor? Here Dr. Ambedkar clarified in the Constituent Assembly that why the MLAs not to elect the governor, and there he talked about the actual role of the governor in a federal system. He has to act as the representative of the central government. What is happening inside the state, how the central government will come to know about it? He has to be a link. He has to be a representative of the center at the state level. And if the governor is an elected person, elected by the MLAs, he may not be able to perform the role as the representative of the center. And that is why this view was also rejected. So the third view, okay, only if he has to be representative, let an eminent person be appointed as the governor. So that is why, if I would have just said it's a governor's office, so why governor's office is a unitary feature? What was the logic behind it? The constituent assembly debates, that aspect has to be understood. Then you will never forget it. ऐसा तो एक point होगा ना, तो you may forget the things. But yes, if you, the things you have understood, the why part, क्योंकि prelims में भी, it is not that prelims crash course is there. So you will have to be very much have depth understanding of the whole system. जब तक आप mains बहुत अच्छे से नहीं पढ़ते हो ना, you will not be able to answer the questions of the prelims examination. So that is why insight is required. That is why we have named it as Quality Enrichment Program. So here and there, basically, wherever it will be required, I will be giving you some insights also, so that it will not be mechanical one, facts, facts, facts. So governor's office, people say that it is also a unitary feature. There are many other aspects also, if you see that we have got the leniency towards the central government. So these are the features, that is unitary features, which may be asked in the examination. Rest of center state relations, I will be discussing the other aspects also. So from here, what can be asked in the examination? What are the features of a true federation? That is one question that can be asked. And which one of the following is a unitary feature of the Indian Constitution? 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, such type of questions will be there. Then coming to another feature from where the questions may be asked, it is a flexible constitution with few rigid provisions. Now, this flexibility and rigidity, this classification of the constitution is based on the process of amendment. How the constitution is amended. So if we talk about a flexible constitution, and rigid constitution, a flexible constitution is that constitution which can be amended easily. That is only by the central legislature. No role of the states. The central legislature will pass the bill, the head of the state will sign it, and the constitution will be, the provision will be amended. Rigid constitution does not mean that the provisions cannot be amended. The provisions can be amended, but the process of amendment is a complex one. Is a complex one. What is the complexity here? After a constitutional amendment bill is passed by the central legislature, it has to be ratified by the state legislatures also. How many state legislatures? That completely depends on your constitution. means on the constitution of that country. For example, if we talk about a rigid constitution, US constitution is a rigid constitution, and after the US Congress passes a constitutional amendment bill, after that it has to be ratified by 3/4 of the state legislatures. 3/4 of the state legislatures. How many states are there in America? 50. What will be the 3/4? 38. So imagine Congress, both the houses, special majority plus 3/4 of the states means 30. कितने बताया? 38 states out of 50. They should say yes. Then only the constitution will be amended. That is why we have got very few amendments in the American Constitution. Now, when we talk about India, in case of India, some of the provisions, after being passed by the parliament by special majority, they need ratification by 50% of state legislatures. Half of the state legislature, 50%. So, in case of India, in case of America, all the provisions have to be amended like this. But in case of India, not all, only few. And these are termed as rigid provisions. This was the basic that I needed to clear. That is why we call which of the constitution can be termed as a rigid constitution. The US constitution will be termed as a rigid constitution. Now, the question that can be expected in the examination is that which one of the following provision is a rigid provision? या ऐसे आता है, which of the following provisions of the constitution need the ratification by the states also in order to be amended? In one of the PYQs, you will see last year or last to last year, the concurrent list was mentioned. Concurrent list was mentioned. या union list was mentioned. ऐसे करके. So from inside also the question can be framed. Now, what are the rigid provisions? Of the Indian Constitution? Means these provisions cannot be amended by the parliament unilaterally. So after the parliament will pass the bill, it has to be ratified by 50% of the state legislature. Parliament a special majority and state legislatures simple majority. Special majority, the two conditions have to be fulfilled that we had discussed. First, Articles 54, 55 dealing with election of the president. Article 73 and 162 dealing with extent of the executive powers of the union and the state. Then chapter 1 of part 5, Union Judiciary, then chapter 4 of part 5. Chapter 4 of part 5, and then the provisions regarding the state judiciary, that is chapter 5 of part 6. It will include the provisions regarding the high courts and the subordinate courts. Then article 241, high courts for the union territories. Then representation of the states in the parliament. That is why the one nation, one election bill, it is to be referred to the states also after it will be passed. Not only this, whatever amendments will be made with respect to Supreme Court, High Courts, even a single article also, that has to be referred to the states. Then chapter 1 of part 11, dealing with center-state relations. Then the 3 lists under Schedule 7, union list, state list and concurrent list. Then Article 279A, GST Council. Then Article 368, the process of amendment of the Constitution. So you say only these aspects, only these provisions are rigid in nature. Rest all the provisions of the Constitution, they are flexible. Means they can be amended only by the Parliament. So that is why I disagree with many of the textbook writers who write partly flexible, partly rigid. What is this partly? It is a flexible Constitution with few rigid provisions. You can count them. Okay, these are the, so out of nearly 490 articles, only these many provisions are rigid in nature. So your Constitution, that is why we say that the process of amendment of the Constitution has made the Constitution a plaything in the hands of the center. A plaything in the hands of the center. Now, whatever it is, here the logic, that why these provisions have been made rigid in nature. You see that wherever the interest of the state is concerned, the provisions have been made rigid in nature. Articles 54, 55, election of the president. Who take part in the election of the president? Even the elected MLAs, they take part. And means the states are empowered. So here also no changes can be made. Otherwise, suppose if a political party comes to power at the center and it feels that in most of the states, state assemblies, it has got no majority. Its presidential candidate will be defeated. It can easily amend Article 54 that the president will be elected only by the elected MPs. Powers of the state gone. Value of the votes of the MPs can be increased arbitrarily. So here the interest of the state is concerned. Similarly, Article 73 and 162. What will be the extent of the executive power of the union government? State government, you cannot arbitrarily change it. Okay, you change it, but with the consent of 50% of the states. Then it is to maintain independence of judiciary. It is to maintain independence of judiciary. Then representation of the states in the parliament, the same rule applies here also. That is to protect the interest of the states. Otherwise, you say that the NDA or the Bharatiya Janata Party is getting the majority of the votes from which of the states? Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Uttar Pradesh, theek hai. But it is not getting seats in the southern states, Tamil Nadu, Kerala. Now, what it can do is that, oh, these people are not voting in favor of us. Chalo, decrease the seats. Increase the seats of Uttar Pradesh. Kuch bhi to apni vote dete hain. Increase the number of seats. That can be done. So, representation of the states in the parliament cannot be done unilaterally, whether in the Lok Sabha or in the Rajya Sabha. If you want to change the representation, then the consent of the 50% states will be required. Then chapter 1 of part 11, legislative relations, administrative relations, you cannot arbitrarily change them. Here also, no changes can be made in the union list, state list or concurrent list without the consent of the states. Plus minus I have written, why? You cannot add on, you cannot delete of your own. You cannot delete of your own. And 279A, GST Council. GST Council, you may be knowing, it is a decision making body with respect to the GST, and all the decisions on GST, whether it is a GST rates or the GST laws, they are taken by the GST Council, which has got the representation of the states also. No changes in the structure, that is a composition, and the powers of the GST can be done unilaterally by the central government. If you need to amend this article, then the consent of 50% of the states will be required. Then Article 368, process of amendment. The whole thing that I have written here, it is mentioned in Article 368, except this part. Except this part. तो बहुत mechanically constitution में they write, okay, these the provisions can be amended, but with the consent of the ratification by 50% of the states or half of the states. And they have written a list like this, 54, 55, 73, 162 like this. But I have made it, we can say, a bit more understanding, because this part may be a bouncer from our part. So here you see that everything has been mentioned in Article 368, that how the constitution will be amended. These provisions will be amended only with the ratification by 50% of the state legislature. It is also mentioned in Article 368. And Article 368 says, I am also rigid. Why? Because if it is flexible, done. One sentence, all the provisions of the constitution can be amended only by the parliament. Your whole constitution will become flexible. That is why this article is a rigid one. So the summary is that those provisions of the constitution which aim to protect the interest of the state, which are related with center state relations and independence of judiciary, they have been made rigid in nature. Prelims के लिए ये पूछते हैं इसी से, लास्ट टू लास्ट ईयर शायद इन्होंने पूछा था, दे हैड आस्क्ड टू कॉन्करेंट लिस्ट या यूनियन लिस्ट पूछा था कि which one of the following is a rigid provision. So once questions will not be difficult, but yes, you need to be very much systematic. You're not supposed to go here and there. ठीक. Now अब आपको क्या करना है? अच्छा, इसमें any addition or deletion, ठीक है? If you want to add a subject in the union list, you cannot do it arbitrarily. The central government cannot do it arbitrarily. Now here, देखो, the things are not as difficult. वो तो हम लोग टीचर्स आपके लिए बहुत डिफिकल्ट बना देते हैं, नहीं तो आप हमारे पास आओगे नहीं. हाँ, वो मैं बताता हूं, फैक्ट्स है. And we try to tell you that oh, you'll have to mug up all the articles. ठीक, टीचर को भी नहीं सब याद रहता, नहीं याद रहता है, पॉसिबल ही नहीं है. फिर तुमको लेकिन बोलेगा अरे याद नहीं है, याद करो. बदला लेते ना, कुछ नहीं हुआ तुम्हारा तो तुम्हारा भी नहीं हो. तो यू आर नॉट सपोज टू स्टडी इन दैट वे. दिस ए पर्टिकुलर वे. यूपीएससी को मैकेनिक्स नहीं चाहिए. दे वांट गुड ऑफिसर्स फॉर दिस कंट्री, दैट यू विल हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड. सो दे विल नॉट बी आस्किंग यू वेग आर्टिकल नंबर्स. What is Article 54? What is Article 54? नहीं, कभी का एक आध क्वेश्चन पूछ दिया तो पूछ दिया. But generally they will not ask such questions. Which of the following provisions of the Constitution can be amended by the Parliament, but ratification of the states is required? They will not write what are the rigid provisions. Long question. Ratification of the states will be required. And then 1 and 2, how many of the statements are correct? Or how many of them are correct? Only 2, only 3, ऐसे करके questions will be there. So basically, how you need to go with the class, I'll tell you. All the aspects that we have discussed. देखो, how to make use of the crash courses like this. ये नहीं कि हाँ पढ़ लिया, ये है, वो है, I know the things, no. Once you go home, relax a bit, have food. After that, you may take rest also. But in the evening, first of all, you need to revise the things. You need to revise the things. ठीक? और उसके बाद, first of all, आपको ना, you need to have a copy with you. और copy में अच्छा, क्या करना है? Once you revise the things, first of all, अच्छा, today the teacher discussed these things. He pointed out that these are important points. After you read certain aspects, then you see what questions have been asked so that you can correlate the things. तो टीचर तो कुछ भी पढ़ा के चला गया, आपको हवा भी नहीं लगता है. Yes, it is a fact. ठीक है, it is a fact. So you need to correlate. That is not to test the teacher. That is to keep you on the toes. उससे क्या फायदा होगा आपको? क्योंकि बहुत बच्चे कैरिड अवे, हम तो जानते हैं, हम तो कर जाएंगे. उसका जिंदगी में कभी नहीं होता है. जो चाय दुकान में तुम लोग को ज्ञान देते रहता है, देखोगे, हाँ, so called seniors, अरे I have appeared 3 times. टीचर तुम्हारा बेकार पढ़ाता है, तो तुम ही पढ़ लो. तुम्हारा तो हुआ नहीं ना 4 times में, because you lack something. So the basic, don't hear to the gossips of those who have not competed in the examination, because there is a frustration which is there. उनका टेक्निक भी अच्छा नहीं हो सकता है, ये हमेशा ध्यान रखना. And the only technique is that you should have no technique. जब अच्छा लगता है, ठीक है, पढ़ना शुरू कर दो. जब नींद आती है, सो जाओ. Yes, ये बेस्ट है. I asked Bruce Lee, you know, you have heard about Bruce Lee. Huh? Someone had asked Bruce Lee that what is the good technique. Bruce Lee क्या करते थे? Bruce Lee किस चीज के लिए फेमस है? Martial arts? Huh? So what is the best technique? Bruce Lee said, no technique. Well, as and when the things come, I decide on the technique. Because the rival has got different techniques. So I have to adjust myself accordingly. So no stereotype things. Topper ने बोल दिया 12 घंटा पढ़ो, 12 घंटा बोला है, बैठे रहो. What is it? If you are able to grasp the things in 4 hours or 5 hours, your work is done. So you'll have to develop your own technique. So once you go home, first of all, after taking food, you need to relax a bit. ठीक? If you want to sleep, you can, but उसके भी आपको एक काम और करना है. The whole thing should be like a cassette in your mind, because the most important thing is how to retain the things. आज आप लोग क्यों फंबल होते? Because you have not retained the things that you may have read earlier, because you may not have restructured the things. So today the teacher came, he discussed first of all the constitution, and he told us about the state. The whole class should be there in your mind, this board. Then state, the teacher talked about these aspects. Then he discussed a question that what type of question can be asked on the state. Then regarding the constitution, he said limited government, restricted government, constitutionalism. He correlated the things. The whole thing should be like a cassette in your mind. तो अब रात को सोते वक्त भी if 1 hour, for 1 hour you do this exercise, we call it as restructuring. The things will be there in your subconscious mind. You will not forget it. रात को क्या होता है? What we do basically is that we see that machine which is known as mobile phone. ऐसे ऐसे करके उसको रात को पूरा देख के आंख पूरा ये करके सोते हैं. उससे मेंटल हेल्थ खराब हो रहा है यूथ का. Today, yes, people are forgetting the things. They are not applying their brain. सब AI कर देगा, सब AI कर, तो तुम क्या करोगे? कल एग्जाम भी AI दे देगा क्या? No. So, yes, so you people need to use the technology very judiciously. सोते समय तो कभी भी नहीं. Give time to yourself. You need to restructure the things. अच्छा टीचर, अच्छा फिर उसके बाद ये क्वेश्चन आया, ये इसका आंसर, ये क्वेश्चन आया, ये आंसर. So the whole class will be there in your mind in 1 hour. So you need to link it with the questions also. That confidence will come in. And then in the copy you write that political systems I have done, basic features of the constitution I have done. So that confidence is required in you. ऐसे नहीं कि हम जानते हैं, I know the things. Confidence is good, but overconfidence is not good. So you should be confident about yourself. कि नहीं, today I sat before the teacher for 5 hours. Yes, I have grasped the things. Now I will be able to answer all the questions which will be asked from these topics. How you will not be successful? सिर्फ सोचते रहने से नहीं. Yes, you'll have to do the thing. और पता 1 year if you practice such type of restructuring, time management, the things will be good for you in the future. थोड़ा दिन का होता है. हम लोग क्या सोचते हैं ना कि नहीं आज मोबाइल नहीं देखेंगे तो लाइफ मेरा खत्म हो जाएगा. तो the whole life will be lost. कभी देखते हो पीएम रील देखता है, कभी देखो डीएम रील देखता है, कभी नहीं. इतना टाइम कहां होता है? तो वो रील नहीं देखा इसलिए डीएम बन गया. हाँ, रील उनका लोग बनाते हैं. हाँ, रील उनका खुद, वो जो भी बोलो, रील उनका खुद वो है. आजकल तो डीएम्स भी रील जीवी हो गए हैं. डीएम्स भी जो है रील जीवी हो गए हैं. ठीक है, तो ये सब जो है ना, इसीलिए देखोगे ये लोग ज्यादा प्रॉस्पर नहीं करेंगे. जो बड़े बड़े जो भी एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर्स को आप देख रहे हो ना, जिनका रील बहुत ज्यादा आता है, वो दे विल नॉट प्रॉस्पर टू मच. वो तो जो, क्योंकि ऐसे आप जा रहे हो ना, आप ऐसे गिरते हो. यस, ऐसे गिरते हो. आप फ्यूचर प्रमोशंस वगैरह में आप कभी नहीं जाओगे. देखोगे सीबीआई के डायरेक्टर आप में नहीं बनोगे. यू विल नेवर बी अ होम सेक्रेटरी. यू विल नेवर बी द सीएजी ऑफ दिस कंट्री. आप नहीं बनोगे क्योंकि आप तो रील बनाने में बिजी हो गए. और जिसको जो आप देखोगे मेनी गुड पुलिस ऑफिसर्स, उनको आप जानते भी नहीं हो, बट दे आर डूइंग वंडर्स. कहां कहां कौन है, क्या है, किसी को पता भी नहीं. एनआईए में कौन है, किसमें क्या है. दे आर बीइंग पोस्टेड टू दिस प्राइस पोस्ट. तो डोंट गिव टू मच ऑफ टाइम ऑन सच टाइप ऑफ थिंग जो कि आपको डाइवर्ट करता है. उसको यू चैनलाइज इट. क्योंकि अब इट इज वी हैव कम टू एन एंड ऑफ दिसंबर. वी हैव गॉट जनवरी, फरवरी, मार्च. ठीक है ना, अप्रैल, थोड़ा टाइम. तो 4 months आर देयर. सो आप क्लास के साथ इफ यू गो, देन योर 70% ऑफ द प्रॉब्लम्स विल बी डन. उसके बाद फिर क्योंकि क्या होता है, न्यू टॉपिक्स विल बी देयर, सो यू विल बी बिजी इन दैट. वो भी मैं आपको लास्ट क्लास में बता दूंगा कि कैसे आपको बैलेंस करना है. with the topics that we have covered and the new topics that you will have to do. So study systematically. It is not a rocket science. And students ही compete करते हैं. The students compete. ये हमेशा ध्यान रख कि हम ही लोग में से कोई compete करता है. ठीक है? तो बस yes, you'll have to study in a very systematic manner. You'll have to be confident but not overconfident. Revise the things daily. हम लोग क्या कर सकते हैं? We can guide you honestly. That is the only thing that we can do. But ultimate honestly आपको काम करना है. You'll have to read religiously. अगर वो आपने जैसे आप धर्म को ना religiously we use the word. अगर आप अच्छे से पढ़ते हो, धर्म को पालन करते हैं ना, तो your work will be done. So whatever we have discussed today, you revise it. See the questions which have been asked in the previous years. If you have got any doubt regarding it, you feel free to talk to me after the class tomorrow. कोई इशू नहीं है, ठीक है ना? कोई भी अगर आप टॉपिक पढ़ते हो, इससे बाहर अभी नहीं पढ़ना, ये मैं आपको बताता हूं. जो बाहर से पढ़ना होगा, I will tell you. Okay, this topic has to be read from outside. Because again you will go here and there and the purpose of these classes will be lost. ठीक है? और एक चीज और बताता हूं. A movie, that movie is a hit where the actor follows the director. And where the actor because he feels that he is the director himself, the movie is a flop. ठीक? ये ध्यान रखना. तो थोड़ा सा पढ़ना, रिवाइज करना. कोई प्रॉब्लम होगा, so I will be there with you. I'll see you tomorrow.